So welcome. Obviously, you just walked in, but your thoughts on the stadium as in...
Well, if there's such a thing as a wow factor, I just experienced it. Having coached here, having spent some great times here, and having experienced the thrill of some great victories here, looking out at this new arena gives me chills, because this home field advantage will be second to none. With the fans as boisterous as they are, wearing their purple and gold, that much closer to the action, I can only imagine what it will be like to not only be the opposing coach, but be the opposing quarterback trying to bark out signals. It's going to be raucous, and congratulations to all those who, whether they donated, whether they built, whether they dreamed, what have you. Congratulations to everybody who got it done, because this is exactly what Husky football deserves.
What jumps out to you immediately? Obviously, just walked into the place, but
the movement of everything closer to the field, and obviously, it just shines like most new things do. But this is a program that's really rich with its traditions, and the fan base for the University of Washington, different than most fan bases that I've been around, in that they bleed it. It isn't transient. It's not just something you do because your neighbor does it. It's something that's in the blood. And because of that, I think they're all going to have a great deal of pride when they get into this stadium for the first time. And I feel bad for Boise State.
When you look at Washington last year and what you think they need to be better at this year, what do you see?
Well, the first thing that came to mind from a year ago was the offensive line play. But you can't blame anybody. It was just a case of a lot of inexperience having to play. Losing as many guys as they lost in training camp and then early in the season, that was very difficult. Losing running backs, very difficult. So now you don't know how much you can run, so now you put a lot more on your pass protection, and obviously that derailed Keith Price for a brief time. But I thought the brain trust came together, Cazzetto, Sarkisian, to figure out how to play. I think they knew when to up-tempo. For instance, the up-tempo against Stanford, I thought, was a brilliant move to try to save, give their offensive line a chance, try to tire out Stanford's defensive front. I think they did some things that might have gone unnoticed to the casual observer to help alleviate the lack of experience on the front. And because of it, they really found their stride. I know they're disappointed they lost that Apple Cup in the bowl game, but I think because of the pain that they went through, they'll be better for it this year as those guys come back with much more experience. From a skill standpoint, just looking out here on the field, you can see great skill. And for those who aren't able to see, they remember names like Safarin Jenkins, Casey Williams. And I know for a fact Stringfellow and Ross, both those young freshmen, because I was recruiting them myself when I was still employed as a coach, are fabulous playmakers. And on the defensive side of the ball, Justin Wilcox in year 2, I think he's got more athletes. You can see a lot of safety-type athletes have moved to the linebacker position. That follows in line with what Tom Osborne did at Nebraska many years ago when he couldn't win the bowl games because he was playing faster teams. Well, to win the North, you got to go through Oregon. They already beat Stanford. They got to figure out a way to beat Oregon. So they, number one, up tempo. So now the defense can be ready to play up tempo on an almost everyday basis, and they've gotten faster. Their linebacker core is almost all former safeties. And so if they get faster and they can run and all those things, I think the distance and obviously the home field advantage has been shored up quickly.
You've coached against Sark. You've analyzed him now for the last year for Pac-12 networks. Is this the year everyone's a lot of pressure on him this year? 7-6 3 straight years.
Yeah, I just talked about that. 7-6 was a great year after the 5-7. 7-6. Everybody remembers how good the show was in the Alamo Bowl with Price versus RG3. I know it didn't end well and then he made the fix on defense, so everybody thinks this next year is going to be the year. But for the last 2 games, it would have been. But almost the last 2 games, 7-6 and 9-4, it might have let them think they'd arrived. And I think the off-season allowed them, because they're that sting of the last 2 weeks, that taste in their mouth, it forces them to really, really challenge themselves in all departments, in all facets. And I think you'd trade those 2 wins for the way they approach the off-season, given what it means. So I think this is a breakout year. I really do. I think they have playmakers in all the places you need them. They've got an experienced quarterback that has been, that his star has been as bright as anybody's. He went through some learning curve, but that kind of goes with the territory. You watch some of these sophomores this year go through that same learning curve. And I think he'll be better for it. Certainly the relationship between he and Sark, Keith Price I've been talking about, and Sark, is strengthened through that tough time. And as I mentioned earlier, you've got an experienced offensive line coming back that now is deep should injury strike again. Defensively, they look good up front. The only thing that I worry about a little bit is how big they are up front when people want to pound them, when people want to really get in there and slug. And that goes to the Stanford game. That'll be the telling tale right there. But I like the Huskies. Everybody asks who my sleeper is. I said, I don't call them a sleeper. I think they're right there in the cusp of fighting for the North Division crown.
We saw Keith Price make some late game major errors last year, but also have some good games. But regardless, if they ended up losing, he took a lot of the blame, either from the media and also put it on himself. How do you handle a quarterback psyche? You were pretty well known for how you handled your quarterback.
Yeah, I got after quarterbacks before. There's probably a lot of video. But I also championed them when they did well. So I think Sark's got that same relationship. He can say and look things that might seem alarming to the casual observer. He might look mad. The fact of the matter, their relationship is so strong that he can be honest with his emotions to Keith, because Keith knows how much Sark cares for him and believes in him. No matter what you do, your strengths are your weaknesses. And what Keith Price's strengths are is he thinks he's a playmaker. He's going to make plays. And that heroic feeling that he has carried the day many times for the Huskies. But when things are collapsing around you, sometimes the best thing you can do is collapse with it and just take the loss, punt the ball, let your defense try to get it back for you. That's a tough lesson to learn, and unfortunately he had to learn it fast last year as the offensive line became decimated. And because he tried to do things early and throw balls before guys were in and out of their breaks and balls got picked and the turnover machine, he had to take a step back and realize my job is to do what I can do, and if I can't do it, don't make the ugly play uglier. Let me just make the best play that's possible here. Let's take the sack, let us punt. And I think he started to do that. I think he got real comfortable in that Colorado game, and then kind of forgot the lesson, and that's why we saw some of those same mistakes rear their ugly heads in Pullman.
You personally, what are the emotions kind of coming back here? Obviously,
I was excited to come back here. I have, like I said, very fond memories of my time here at Washington. We're on this tour. I've been to Colorado. I had fond memories there. UCLA was a much tougher gig for me coaching. I didn't get as many wins there. I won a lot of games in both Colorado and Washington with the help of a lot of great coaches and a lot of great players. So my memories are fond. I know it was a messy ending to my time here, and I think we all learn lessons from that time, but it's in the past, and as things in the past, you move on. You take what you can from it and try to learn from it.
Good. Had a chance to catch up with Tui yet? Or?
I haven't, but I'm looking forward to it. And I'm excited both for Marcus and for the University of Washington that he's back here. He's a very gifted young man. Obviously, people remember what he did on the field. I certainly do. I rode his shoulders to Pasadena. But I think the Husky fans will really enjoy him in his new role as a coach. He's got great passion for the game, as you know, and I really enjoyed my 1 year with him while he was with me at UCLA, so I'm thrilled for him.
Do you have a biggest regret from what happened here and the best memory? Can you nail
the biggest
down
regret is that, how it ended. It was, a stupid basketball pool. I mean, it would have been easy just to say, well, I can't go. I didn't think about it. So, I mean, obviously, one little decision turned into being a nightmare. That is unfortunate. With regret, my fondest memory, I had a lot of great fond memories. There was a catastrophic thing that happened while I was here with Curtis Williams. Curtis was a great safety, great kid, kind of coming into his own as a young man and a father. And the injury that he endured at Stanford was, nightmarish. And I'm talking from my standpoint as the head coach of the team, can only imagine what it was like for his family. But what I'm really proud of is the way we, as a Husky family, rallied around the Williams family and found ways to make what turned out to be the last year of his life as comfortable and as memorable as it could be. And I think the kids that were on that team learned a lot of valuable lessons, not only because of what was taking place on the football field, but what was taking place around them in life, and how not to, take things for granted. And Curtis served as a shining light and an example for that. And I will never forget him being in the locker room when we went to the Rose Bowl. He was going to be up in the press box for the game due to his condition. They didn't think they could move him around much. But Curtis asked to be in the locker room when we arrived. And I got that phone call on the bus, 4 buses going to the game. And I said, if Curtis wants that, that's what Curtis gets. And I remember telling the bus driver to alert all 4 buses not to get off until I had a chance to speak to each bus. And each bus, I told him, Curtis is in there waiting to say hello. And I want you guys to make sure that you tell him just how much you care about him. And it was not a dry eye in the locker room. It was one of those moments that you just are glad you're a part of, that sport is more than just a game. It transcends just the game on the field, and it was real life stuff. And I'll never forget Curtis Williams' smile in that locker room wearing his Rose Bowl jersey. And it was a thrill to hoist the trophy at game's end and give it and dedicate it to Curtis. And so that was a fond memory despite the tragic time.
Tell us about, this is your brainchild, the tour, and where have you been? And
we're sitting around, we're the Pac-12 network, and I said, guys, you don't understand, training camp is where you tell stories. We need to go to each campus. Number one, we have the prettiest geographic conference in the country. No one would argue. To get to go to places like Seattle, especially in August, Boulder, Colorado, Salt Lake, Utah, and then the list goes on. We were at Tonazona, up in the mountains of Arizona, see the new facility there at U of A. We're going to be down in the Bay Area and then off to UCLA to finish. I mean, it's a phenomenal tour of beauty. Plus, you get to see the new guys. Everybody's excited. Who's the new guy that's getting the coach's attention in fall camp? How is the stars that we know? How are they looking forward to the season? And we also make friends with the coaches. We're going to spend a whole season critiquing coaching and critiquing the play of each of these teams. If we have a relationship with those coaches, not just me because once was a peer, but Mike and the other people on our crew can come and hang out with them, they realize we're in it for everybody. We're going to be honest. We're going to tell it like we see it. If I think I see a mistake, I'll point it out. Always quick to remember that they have jobs and I don't. But the bottom line is we need to forge these relationships so that we can continue to do this, because the coach is really the caretaker or the gatekeeper of how much information we get. And the more information he feels comfortable in giving us, the more information the great Pac-12 fans will get. And that's the whole reason for a Pac-12 network.